Hello everyone, Zelrant here, and today I thought we'd talk about a fan favorite animus, which is going to be Tiamat. I think a majority of people are going to end up getting a copy of her because she's going to probably be the most popular one to use the beginner's banner selector to get, as she is overall good in a majority of the content. One of the big ones being the campaign. She should make it significantly easier for most people to push through. And with that, I think we should go over how you kind of want to build her to make that happen. Now, we're going to look more at the kind of beginner gear and then kind of work our way up to how you want to kind of build her once it gets to end game. Because not only is she going to be good for doing that entry-level beginner content through campaign and all that, she's going to remain top tier all the way into end game, which even includes PvP. And so you'll want to kind of look at the higher tier modules and shells as you kind of step through them as you're completing content. And now just for a quick summary on Tiamat, we'll just take a look at her real quick here. So Tiamat has her 3 skills, all based, as we've discussed before with the previous video. The main thing is getting these stacks of bloodshed here. And so you get the stacks of bloodshed when you, for every 13% HP lost or healed, gains 1 stack of bloodshed. Once she reaches 8 stacks, she enters her ultimate form, which is ultimately your main goal with her a majority of the time. And then when you get into that, she's just going to spam this AoE attack that does a lot of damage to the enemies, and it can heal her up a little bit. And then you slowly accumulate these, you slowly lose stacks, and then when you're out of stacks, you leave the ultimate form. And alongside that, you also have her taunt, where she can taunt the enemies, and then you also have the heal over time and shield with the main one here. So kind of a little bit of her sustain that she can bring, which is one of the big reasons that makes her really good with a campaign, is she can be like an assisted sustain, but she also does a lot of damage herself. She has the taunt. And so the big thing is, you'll see in here as well, is she wants to take HP damage. She wants a lot of HP because she scales off of it. As well as with the taunt and stuff, you're going to want a little bit of that accuracy to make sure that is hitting when you do trigger it. But you also want a lot of HP, and maybe things that can trigger based off of HP manipulation, because you see she consumes her own HP. In a lot of her skills. And so there are shells and stuff that will react based on that HP manipulation. So let's just go ahead now and start taking a look at some of the module sets here. And so we'll go into the archive, and we'll go in the matrix and kind of discuss what I think are some of the best sets you might want to look through, not only as you're kind of building her through the campaign, but kind of when you're looking at the end game. Alright, when looking at the sets for Tiamat, I think hers is going to be fairly easy for the early game, as you're going to have limited options. And one thing you're going to see when looking at these sets is, like, the one that I think is going to be probably just the generic good one to have on her in the beginning. It's going to be kind of obvious. It's going to be Wellspring. It only needs 4 to get to start getting your initial benefits, then 8 to get even more, and then it just goes all the way up to 45% HP if you can get it all the way to 12. HP is always going to be good on her because she scales on it. She's going to always be damaging herself. And so she's going to always be lower on HP because of that. And that is going to make it where she's just has that more survivability to deal with it. And you're doing bigger percentage chunks to herself. But there's also another little thing that you'll notice in a lot of these sets. And that is when you look at the shells here, is the availability to get these sets on the shelves. And the big thing you can see immediately is that this is available on the earliest ones that you'll be able to farm. One of them being this one, the Scorpion Queen. But then also, which I think you should be able to get to fairly early in the game, because I think we'll be able to probably like skip over the blue ones real quick. You'll just throw one on until you get to the difficulty to get the purples. And there are plenty of purples that have this. And I think actually, we'll get into the shells here. This one actually has what I would consider one of the better shells that I think you'll want to put on her, at least until you get into the next level shells. And that's going to be this guy here. And we'll go over him in a second. But he has Wellspring available in his sets, as well as 2 other good ones, which includes Swift Rush and Unbreakable. And those are going to be 2 others that we're going to look at here that I think are going to be very good for her in the early game. That is going to be Swift Rush. And speed's going to be king to me. In the beginning, I just want to be able to move quickly because we're dealing with campaign and all that. And I just like being able to take advantage of, have the turn advantage against the enemies. Not only can it make the fights quicker so you can get through them quicker, it's just gonna make your life, I think, a lot more smoother getting through campaign. I don't know if this is going to be good for her end game, but that doesn't matter when it comes to building her in the beginning of the game. It's all about getting through that campaign as quickly as you can, and having turn priority is always going to be good there. And then it's just like I said, when you look at this set, you're going to have plenty of options available to you. Now, it doesn't come until, you don't get to see it until it gets to the purples, but you're going to get into the purples fairly early into the game on the shells. Now, there's another one that I think is really good for her, but you're not getting it till end game, and that is going to be Bloodbath. Bloodbath might not immediately, because this is a defense. These are all the defense sets here, so you're thinking, well, she's HP scaling, not really defense scaling. But when you look at what this set does, effective resistance plus 18%, that's always going to be good, because it's basically resisting a debuffs, and the higher you can get on that, the more resistant she's going to be overall to just completely. So even if they hit you, or if they get the dice roll they want to apply the debuff, the effective resistance can then still counter it. But then you also have the secondary effect. Now this one is going to be more of a late game one, because this one requires all 12 to get, and in the early game you're not even going to be able to get that many, but there's also another reason. When the total damage taken in a turn exceeds 20% of max HP, the excess damage is additionally reduced by 55%. I think that's going to be massive on her, simply on the fact that she's going to self-harm and do that HP damage to herself. And so she's going to reach that 20% HP fairly easily, and now you've just reduced all the damage she takes by 55%. I think that one's going to be very big on being able to keep her alive, as she's going to be self-harming, especially if you're going like sustainless. That way she's a lot more survivable, because she's going to be taking hits, especially with her taunt. But there is the big negative of this, and this is why I say when you're looking at these sets, it's only on the end game shells. So you cannot get this set with that blue or purple or any of those. And so you're going to want to come in here, and this is going to apply to all characters, and see, is it even available to get on the shells? Because without the shells, it's going to be very hard to get like multiple sets that you want completely filled, because then you only have access to the actual modules themselves. And then you can see, well, also the only place you can actually get the pieces that'll have this are in the held difficulty, which you're not getting to anytime soon. So you just gotta pay attention to these sets. But this one is definitely going to be a very good one for her end game. And there's a couple others that I'm kind of seeing here. Bramble's one that I just like generically, especially for somebody that's got a taunt. That gives her a chance to counterattack, so just more damage to the enemy from it. So overall, great. I mean, defense on her is not gonna hurt her, because she can then take more hits. Overall, it's not her most important stat, but I really like the secondary part here. Like I've already mentioned, Swift Rush, and then you have down here, I think, another really good one to go for, but this is going to be more of an end game looking one, which this one has effective accuracy plus HP plus 25%. I think effective accuracy is going to be important for her in the later stages, simply because she's going to want to make sure she hits that taunt. So if she hits the taunt and the enemies have high effective resistance, this is going to also be important in PvP, you're going to want the accuracy to overcome their resistance. And then this one also has HP on top of it, which she loves HP, so I think this will be an overall good set for her in the long run. But these are the modules. Those are kind of the good sets. I think you can also go with something like this for some speed and effective accuracy, but I don't know how important speed's going to be for her, if she's not like your main core damage dealer overall, and she has her own turn manipulation kind of built into her kit, because when she transforms, she immediately goes. But then that brings us to the shells. And so with shells, I've kind of looked through them to kind of see what the early game ones you might want to look for putting on her. I'm not going to be too concerned myself in min-maxing these, because it's just like any other game. You're going to be replacing these as you move up. Like the first blue ones, I feel like you're going to replace so quickly, you just throw something on her. But when looking through these, I think one of the best ones that you might want to look for just getting initially to kind of put on her, especially if you can get the right matrices for it, is going to be this little guy, White Gale. Does some extra damage within his skill itself, and then extends the duration of non-control debuffs inflicted by the owner this turn by 1 turn, and then increases the owner's Animus's effective accuracy by 15%. I like the fact that it gives that extra effective accuracy, just making sure that taunt is hitting. So overall looks pretty good, but then I also like the sets on here. You have Wellspring, Swift Rush, and Unbreakable. All good there. This is going to make it much easier to hit that 12 on Wellspring if you're trying to get all the way to 12 in the early stages of the game. And then as you kind of move up, one thing is I'm not a big fan of like most of the epics on terms of their skills for her. So that's where I'm kind of looking to something like this one, especially if you're using pieces that do give her a little bit of extra defense, because she can take advantage of defense. But I did like this one here, has some nice sets down here. This is where you're getting introduced to like Bramble. And you have Swift Rush. Now it doesn't have Wellspring, which kind of sucks, because that's kind of the one that I'm like, I really want to get that extra HP. But it does have those two. But then you have this, increases the defense by 550, and then applies a 2-turn shield to the owner of the ally with the lowest HP percentage. I think this one can be very good if you're kind of doing that sustainless type deal to move through content. Now, I don't know if you're going to really need to do that, because we're going to get a free SSR healer, but I think this is going to be a good stopgap, at least until we start getting into the mythics, because there are some mythics that look absolutely great for her. Alright, when looking at the mythic pieces, this is now starting to look at building her for endgame. And there are 3 of them that I've seen here that look pretty good. So one of them is going to be this one right here, Amber. And so Amber is got, if you look at the skill, because one big thing you have, not only the matrices that you're kind of worrying about when it comes to maxing out your sets, but also what they provide in the skill here. And so Amber Awakened, you can see it's a death prevention, a single heal, defense up 1. When the owner Animus is about to die, which she's got the taunt, so she's taking hits and stuff, and she self-harms, so it can be very easy, especially in PvP, if you're taking, like, if you're getting focused in PvP, because they might want to try and get rid of her. This can be something that can help you here. Halves so when you're about to die, it'll have the turn meter, removes all effects on them, so all the debuffs, recovers 60% of HP, and puts them into an ice state. And so ice state is, while active, increases defense by 200% and grants immunity to turn meter buffs and debuffs. When the Animus takes their turn to axe, removed ice, and recovers 50% of the max HP. So this is just going to be an amazing way for her to top herself off immediately. And then when you kind of look in the sets in here, you have this one, which I really like, which is the Swift Smite that's possible. But you have this big one, Bloodbath. I think that's going to be a very, very good one for her to get here. I think this one just seems like it's going to be her bread and butter in keeping herself alive just in general. But you have that. You have the ability to get your speed and accuracy. You can get some extra effective resistance or defense if you really need that. Where's the other ones on here? Oh yeah, Bramble. Bramble's the other big one here. So if I was to kind of go for it in terms of what I'd want on here, like if you were going for the perfect piece, I kind of would look for like Bramble, Bloodbath, and then potentially a Swift Smite for the speed and effective accuracy. But I think there's a lot of different options you have here depending on how you're building her. But I think Amber is like my first good one. But then we also have, so that's the more defensive one. But then if you want to go on the more offensive side, you have Lighthouse here. And so this one's single heal turn meter plus, triggers when the main body takes damage greater than 25% of max HP within a turn. That's the key thing, within a turn. She self-harms, so she should be able to trigger this fairly easily. Heals them for 25% of max HP, and then increases turn meter by 25%. So this is a turn manipulation for her. I think this one's probably going to be the best one for her, in my opinion, simply because I love turn manipulation. In PvP, I think it's going to be key. I could be very wrong. We'll kind of see how it plays out. But this is a way, she's always going to be like triggering this because she does damage to herself. And then this can heal her and then makes her turn come quicker. Overall, amazing. And then when you look at the potential sets you can get on it, I mean, you have Bloodbath, which I think is a really good one for her. You have Bramble, which is a good one. If you need speed, you got Swift Rush, you got Swift Smite. So a lot of good stuff on here that you can kind of work into her kit depending on what you need. So then you can just farm for the right stuff there. And then the other one here, I'm trying to remember what the other one. There's one more that I think was pretty decent. I think it was Alicorn here. Yeah. Yep, Purify, Resistance. This one I think might be good on just people in general. Before the owner takes action, if the owner has any debuffs, dispels 2 debuffs and increases their effective resistance by 25% for every 1 debuff dispelled. So this is highly, like, I think this one could potentially be very good in PvP depending on how the meta plays out. If the meta plays out that it's a very debuff heavy meta, meaning they're constantly wanting to put debuffs on you, this could be a counter on using this type of unit on there, because not only are you able to dispel those debuffs when you take your turn, but then you're just giving yourself a massive effective resistance. Potentially, if you have 2 of them on you, a 50%, making it much easier to resist future debuffs. So that one's, I think, going to be a big one. And then you have a lot of good stuff in the potential matrix here. You have Wellspring. The other 2 did not have Wellspring on it. And I think Wellspring, at getting it to 12, will be really, really good for Tiamat on the end game. So you have that one available. You have Bramble available. You had Bloodbath available. So overall, I think that, I mean, this one has the best in terms of the matrices, because I think those would be like my main 3 there. And this is more of a defensive one, but I think Tiamat also is very defensive as well. So overall, the next best one there. And I think this one will just be good on a lot of units in general, and it could be difficult for people to play around in PvP, especially if it's not meta, and the meta is going all in on debuffing your enemies to death. But yeah, that's kind of that with the end game shells there. But overall, I think Tiamat will do quite fine however you build her. I think, like, for myself personally, early game, my plan is literally just to go focus on Wellspring. It's going to be the easy one to put whatever I can on there. I don't think it's going to be too difficult in the beginning. Just know that when you're trying to upgrade or get the better gear, you're having to push through these levels. So as you can see, you're starting with those lower ones, and then you don't really start seeing the next tiers until you start getting to the more difficult content. And when I was doing it in the beta, I think I was doing hards around level 20, which you should be able to push fairly early. So you're going to move through this stuff quickly, but the quicker you can do it, the better, because you're getting to that level, and I don't think you start seeing the triples on the sets until like the really hard difficulties down here. Yeah, not even to health 3. It looks like they're not even showing up to until you get to health 3. And this is where it started. It gets pretty challenging at these difficulties. So you're going to, if you want to be able to beat it sooner, you're going to want to have your characters built. But yeah, that's pretty much Tiamat on that. That's what I think are some of her best sets, some of her best shells for her. But yeah, this is all subject to change. I've kind of just been messing around a little bit in here with what I think might be best for them. But we'll kind of see as well as the beta's coming up. So I may have more information on that here in the future. But yeah, that's Tiamat. Just make sure that you are using her correctly, and you will have an easier time with campaign. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you like my content, if you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.